This is What If I Told You, the event psychology video podcast for event professionals in which Victoria Mady, event consultant and host, talks with the world's top minds in behavioral science, neuroscience, and psychology on how to transform events using insights about human behavior and mind. For more science-based tips, join Event Psychology Club at eventpsychology.gumroad.com. Also, check out Victoria's online course, Event Psychology Lab, at eventpsychology.thinkific.com, which covers key behavioral science concepts and offers research-backed solutions to your event challenges. This course is a unique opportunity to upgrade your industry skills and gain a competitive edge without adding to your already busy schedule. Now, enjoy the conversation.
Hello, I'm Victoria Mady, and this is What If I Told You, the Event Psychology podcast, where I talk all things event psychology, that is how to apply brain science insight in events. And today my guest is Mindy Weinstein, PhD, a leading expert in marketing. She has been named as one of the top women in the industry globally. Founder of the marketing firm Market MindShift, she has trained thousands of professionals from organizations of all sizes, including Facebook, the Weather Channel, and the World Fuel Services. Mindy is a program leader for the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania and Columbia Business School. Her interest in persuasion led her to pursue a PhD in general psychology with an emphasis in technology, and after 5 years of studying this concept, she decided to share her knowledge through her book, The Power of Scarcity, Leveraging Urgency and Demand to Influence Customer Decisions. Mindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for joining me today. I'm very excited about the topic that we are going to discuss, and this is scarcity. Now, I've just come across your book recently, so I haven't read it yet, but I did tune into a few podcasts where you explained how you started researching this concept and how you realized that it is much more complex than you ever knew as a marketer. And I thought that's exactly what I believe many event professionals appreciate digging into in more detail, because I feel like this concept of scarcity is one of those phenomena that everybody thinks they know about too well, but in fact we don't. So I'm very glad to have come across your work and that we can talk about it today. Let's start. My first question. It's well known that scarcity influences our decisions. How does it work exactly?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think, first of all, I want to define scarcity, how I'm going to be talking about it. So scarcity in terms of what I wrote about in the book and what I studied for so many years, it's unavailability of any type. So that could be time related, which I feel like that's what most of us are used to. So whenever I've told anyone that I wrote a book on scarcity or when I spent all those years studying it, I would usually get the response that, oh, I hate time pressure. I hate it when people try to sell me and it's a time, some kind of time crunch. But that's only one type. And really there's time related. We'll get into all the different kinds, but supply, demand, and limited conditions. So with going to some of the things of what is it about scarcity that's just different? It's the fact that scarcity actually ignites the primal part of our brain. So when we're faced with a scarce situation, and it could be really anything, our brain goes into high gear. And what I've discovered through all of my research and my studies is that, that dates back to our early ancestors when they were trying to survive because water was scarce, shelter was scarce, food was scarce. And the way that our brains work is that is passed on from generation to generation. So our brains are wired to when something's scarce, and again, unavailability of any type, our brain starts to hyper-focus and wants to overcome that. And so that's really what led me to the whole concept of studying scarcity and really why it's such an important factor to consider.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You just mentioned different types of scarcity. Can you talk about that? I know that you outlined 4 types of scarcity in your research.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is, I feel like, the really important part, because this is where so many people get it wrong in understanding it, is that again, most of us think of time pressure. So we think of either, maybe you've even been in some like sales situation where you're told, well, you'll only get this offer if you make your decision today. Well, that's time related, and that's any type of restriction on time. And yes, we do react to that, but most of us don't have the best view of that kind of scarcity. However, time scarcity could be discounts. It could be things that are just offered for a certain period of time. And so I give lots of examples in my book of different companies using time related. McDonald's is a fantastic example of that, but I'm going to hold it on those examples for now. Then you'll have supply related, and supply related is any restriction on, really could be supply shortages or a restriction that was intentional on supply. Only so many seats are released for the event, things like that, or VIP tickets. That's supply related. And that's actually where exclusivity comes in, which is fantastic as well. Then you have demand related scarcity, and that's any type of popularity. So that could be just notating, if you're having an event on your website, this is the most popular option chosen, whether that's for sponsors or for attendees, and even showing the type of attendance and how many tickets are being sold. I mean, that's really demand-related scarcity. And then the last one is limited edition. And with limited edition, it is still supply-related. I just called it out separately because it's used differently. So supply-related is any twist on the original, but because it's only in a certain supply, we tend to also just get really drawn to it. So that's a huge, huge thing. But understanding the different types really helps, I feel like, businesses then understand, well, how do I use them? Because one of the things, and I know I'm going off a little bit on a tangent, but one of the things, because I've now been studying this for years, I've studied on the academic research side, I've done case studies, I've implemented, I've been consulting on this, is that every single business and even every single event, there's some type of natural scarcity. You don't have to make it up. Like, there is some type of natural scarcity. There are only so many seats to be sold. There are only so many sponsorships you can have. Or within your business, there might be so many clients you can take. So there's a lot of natural scarcity that goes on. Businesses just don't think about it that way, and they don't leverage it.
Well, exactly. Those types of scarcity that are popular techniques for event professionals, for event marketers, last chance to register, for example, which is about time scarcity, right?
Absolutely.
I was wondering, do some types of scarcity apply to specific industries more than others?
Yes, that's a really, really good question. And the answer is yes, but it's actually more your customers, your clients, than necessarily your industry. So you might answer yes, it's going to depend on your customers and clients. So let me give you an example. So what we know through research is that demand-related scarcity, so showing that, how maybe the event coming up is already, 75% sold out. You are not sold out yet, 75% sold, or whatever you want to say. Well, that's demand-related scarcity. And if you know that your potential target audience really cares about belonging or being drawn into something that's exciting, then they're gonna go for that. If you have a clientele that they want to feel special and just more exclusive, where they strive for uniqueness, well, then supply related is going to be huge for them. And that's where things like VIP come in, or saying that this is a very, small event, it's invite only. As soon as you say invite only or VIP, you've got people who really are drawn to the supply related exclusivity. So that's important. Now, time related does work for most, it really does. But one thing I feel like, especially in the event world, and I see so much of like early bird, things like that pricing, is that people become accustomed to things. So sometimes it's good to switch it up, have something different that you might offer. And it could be some type of discount or promotion for a limited time, but think a little bit outside the box.
Yes, I was going to ask you just about that, because I feel like because so many businesses are using scarcity techniques, people get insensitive to it almost, right? So when I see, only 2 tickets left, I mean, really, I start questioning it, right? Because I'm not sure. And I guess it's one of the potential downsides of using scarcity as a business tool, because it sometimes can come across as manipulative. So you just mentioned how you can address this kind of challenge. Are there any more strategies to handle it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to step back a moment, though, and talk about why it does work. So even though sometimes we feel that it is overdone, there are ways where we do just get to the point where we ignore those type of messages. But what happens in our brain, and we've seen this actually through brain scans, is we can see that when we're faced with scarcity, the part of our brain that has to do with valuing something, so valuation, what is something worth, it lights up right away. We also know that we make quicker decisions because we can actually see that in brain scans. So knowing that is important. Tuck that away as I talk about this, because when we talk about things like that, because I see those messages too, only 2 seats left, and it might not catch your attention. However, had you gotten an email maybe the week before saying that there were 20 seats left, and then now you get the email and says there's 2 seats left, now you're going to react because it's now caught your attention, because it's being tracked, it's being updated. And there's actually, it's a different industry, but it's a luxury condominium complex not too far from my house. And I actually included them in the book because I found it really interesting. I was driving by and they had a sign and it said 80% sold or units sold. And I'm like, I wonder if they really, because it was a static sign, like, did they really update that sign? And sure enough, they were. And so I drove by a couple weeks later and it was 90% sold. And it truly did, because my husband's real estate was able to confirm. I mean, it sold out. And so that is demand related, but that's also for people. When you see something like that, like the seats, it tells you that this must be good, because why are so many people buying tickets? So it does get your attention. Now, if you just saw like a one-off, email like that or message, you might be like, I don't really know. But even for me, I'm a researcher in scarcity, and I still get drawn to things. I actually just went to a conference, and what got me, and I'm so happy I did, but what got me to get off the fence on my registering was there was an email sent out, and they said because of technical issues, they were going to have to switch some of the things up with their location, and they would not be able to have as many attendees. And then I registered right there. Like, I didn't even think about it more. I'm like, I'm in. I want to make sure. I want to be special too. I want to go. And so that's where you got to be careful. But here's the thing, though. So two things to keep in mind. You don't ever want to be fake. So don't make that up, because people see through that. They talk to one another. If they show up at the event and you said it's sold out, but it's maybe half full, I mean, now you're not going to get that person to ever come back or to ever trust you. So there is an actual psychological principle, which it's called scarcity disconfirmation, and I won't get too much into it, but it's basically, we are smart enough to say, like, this is not matching up. And the other thing I would say is switch things up and test things. So like, if you know that, again, you have an audience who really does want to feel special, well, instead of doing early bird pricing, you could do something where you have VIP tickets, but you only have so many and are only offered for so long, things like that. And I actually just did some consulting for a company that does a lot of events, and they did that. They actually, and it's authentic, it's true. They first, have the VIP, and they'll say, this is sold out now, the VIP, but you can still attend, here's these other seats available. And so there's just different things, but you have to try things and try things all at once. Don't do, I want to do VIP and I'm going to do how many seats, I'm going to do this and that, because then you're not going to know it works.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually, to apply step by step rather than just everything at once.
Exactly.
What types of scarcity are the most effective in event marketing, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's okay. So in my opinion, I would say supply, because people, and some of the other things are so much with scarcity, because I didn't even get into FOMO, which is the fear of missing out, which is psychology. We don't really call it FOMO. It's called loss aversion, but FOMO is what everyone knows. But that's pretty universal. So, I mean, that's demand and supply, but really for supply, like if you're seeing that something was invite only, or like I just mentioned in that situation, that there truly is going to be a restriction. Because they're all, I mean, in events, you can only say how many people. So you actually already naturally have scarcity no matter what type of event it is. People want to be part of it, and they want to feel like they got in, and again, they were special, and they don't want to miss out. So again, that's where FOMO comes in. And so with what I've seen, that's a huge, huge thing. And it's interesting because I actually did, it's good timing for today too. I was consulting another company that was putting on their very first ever conference. And it's going to be a very large conference for women. And one of the things that I consulted them on was, you know what, you already know that this conference isn't for everybody, just given the subject matter. And so why not have a little mini quiz? Are you the right attendee? You know, instead of saying, is this the right conference? Are you the right attendee? And just implementing that, and not, don't make someone answer 20 questions. You know, maybe just 5, because there's 2 things. One, you see it all over social media. We all love little quizzes. The 2, all of a sudden, you're hoping that it's going to come back and say, yes, you are the right person for this conference, and you want to feel like you're special. And so they have worked on implementing that. And then the other thing, too, is, you know, the whole idea with what you do that's different, instead of doing early bird tickets, they have implemented, if you've, you know, kind of thing, like if you bring a friend, because it's just a more social type of conference, if you bring a friend, this is the pricing, the special pricing. So there's a bring a friend pricing versus the early bird. And again, not the early bird's bad. We're just also used to that. So we're kind of like, we always do that. So it's just kind of interesting. So there are different things, but supply related to me is that's the one to start with, I should say.
Those are great examples. And I really love how confident that first client is with, you know, doing this quiz, because I guess it sort of signals this confidence that they are efficient as event organizers enough to curate their audience this way and offer the best experience through curating the audience. And this is a kind of a trust indicator to me as well. You know, if I'm so confident in whatever experience I'm offering that I even suggest, you know, my prospective attendee doing a quiz on whether or not it's the right type of event for them, then, I mean, I would probably go for it, you know, with more, with better anticipation of the experience that that is going to be planned for me. So my next question is, what did you find in academic research that the business world didn't know?
Yeah. Okay. So now I love that. Well, the first one, and actually it's the main one, it's really what got me to make it into your book, is that, you know, I told you there's the different kinds of scarcity, and, you know, some of us have heard that already. You know, we know that, we haven't thought about it. We're like, okay. What I realized through academic research was that the way in which people react to those different types of scarcity, which depends on what I just told you, like how are they wired? Are they wired to be drawn to things that make them more unique? Are they wired for things that make them feel like they belong? That's where I thought, oh, wow. In the business world, we don't know this. We just feel like, I'm going to just make this a sale, or we're just going to, you know, who knows what we're going to do, without thinking of is this the right type of scarcity to use for my target audience? And that's what, for me, just kind of blew my mind, because I have a marketing background. So even when I went to academic research, I hadn't been a practitioner for years. And so I felt like I knew it, you know, I just kind of was interested in it, and then realized, yeah, we've got this wrong. And so that's a big thing.
Well, yeah, so it's great that you can share all those insights now with more people, with more professionals from marketing, from event marketing in particularly. And my other question was about how we can use, or if we can use scarcity after the event at all. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it depends on what your goals are. I mean, if you feel like this is an event and you're going to be doing this annually or, twice a year, well, then start working on really showcasing that unique experience that they got if you're going down that road. Or you could do, I know I don't want anyone to think that I'm not for time-related scarcity, because it actually does work really well. But you could do something that after the event, while they're still hyped up about it, do have some kind of limited time offer, that type of thing. And so doing things like that after the event could really help. And one of the things, and this is a little bit different than scarcity, but it does tie to it. We all know that having any kind of testimonial or praise about an event or even a product, really anything, that makes us trust that organization more. Now, how it relates to scarcity is that it triggers this idea of, oh, people like me go to this conference. Oh, people like me have these takeaways from this conference. So if you can really leverage getting that feedback right away, then when you're marketing the events down the road, you can really showcase those. So that just builds trust, because all of these things too with scarcity, people have to trust you, because otherwise you can say whatever you want, but if they don't trust you or that isn't incredible enough, they're gonna be like, And everything, I feel like too, when I talk about scarcity, we're not robots. Our brains do these things, and it's subconscious, but at the end of the day, we're intelligent beings. We can stop and say, do I trust this message? Do I trust this brand? So I would say those two things, like if there is something that you can do right away, that's a time-related, scarcity offer, and then at the same time, really push hard to get those reviews and testimonials, because that's going to, like I said, help you down the road.
I really like that. Behind all these techniques that are effective in themselves, when you know how to use them properly, there are still, things like trust or knowing your audience that really make a difference when you apply all those other tools. Other ways to use scarcity to keep attendees engaged and interested in future events. Like when something that you are planning right now, you are doing your event right now, but then you should plan ahead as well, like in the long term. So other ways that you can sort of plant, scarcity into your future planning or for your future events. It's sort of, this sort of similar question to, how you use it after the event, but I'm just wondering if there are any more ways to use scarcity for in your future planning of events.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm just trying to read it, and my mind's going all over the place of all the different things you can do, because there's just so much. But I would say if it's something that's coming up in the future and you're in the planning process, especially if you already have a database of previous attendees or just a database of attendees you're going to reach out to, you could create some type of either a sneak preview, again, that's special. I can say special because that's going to reach so many people. A sneak preview to the event, that if they give their email or whatever you want to say, they get a sneak peek to what topics are going to be covered, who's going to be there, and no one else gets. See, that's the important thing. It has to be like when no one else is going to get it, because then they're like, again, I'm special. And then the other thing you could do too is that have some type of, just collect their information, put them on a list of not only getting you a sneak peek, but maybe you get early access to getting your tickets before they're released to everybody else. Because again, could be a risk of selling out, especially if it's sold out before. You really need to highlight that. So that's something you can do, is make sure that you don't miss out because you're going to get early access to these tickets. But you can also even do wait lists too. Put people on a wait list that, as soon as tickets are released, here you go. And so that's another thing too. And we see wait lists. Those are actually part of scarcity a lot. And that's because they work really well. They work really well.
I love this. And I didn't realize, but now when you're explaining it, it does make sense that it refers and it directly relates to the concept of scarcity. You do trainings and keynotes, so you attend a lot of business events. And I was wondering if you have any examples of how scarcity was used best and worst at the event?
Oh. Yes. So, I mean, I gave you the actual personal example. I thought it was authentic, but I thought it was brilliant about hey, we've had to change things because of logistic issues or technology issues. Because when I showed up to that event, it was packed. So, I mean, I knew that this was true. They weren't just saying that. So I thought that was really interesting. The other things, I'm trying to think of some of the things that I've seen that are really, really intriguing. I have been, and the reason I've talked about VIP so much is because I have spoken in a lot of events over this last year. So what came out that the organizers had a VIP access, which we know that's common, but they truly made it VIP where, they could hear, of course, I'm doing the keynote, they heard that, but then they could get something else too, where, a copy, like some of them getting a copy of my book or being able to get some one-on-one time. And I thought that is really smart because now you're taking it a step beyond. And so that was really, really big. And I'm trying to think of some that were just made me shake my head that were not so good. I'm not really big on the whole, like a huge pressure on you got to buy now, you got to buy now, you got to buy now type of thing, because I think that turns us off. And so there have been situations where I saw that a bit and just like, because you don't also want, here's what happens too, and this just based on experience, is that when you start to really push people to buy, especially as you get closer to the event, then that also signals to people that, well, how come more people haven't been signing up? Is there something they don't know? And so it goes the opposite. Instead of saying like, oh, this must be valuable because everyone's signing up, you think the opposite of, well, do all these people know something I don't? Maybe they don't want to go. And so I feel like that one you got to be really careful.
Yeah, I do agree. So a couple of final questions. I wanted to ask you about any resources that you think might be good for event professionals to check out, apart from your book, of course, which I would highly recommend. It's on my bucket list, but maybe you can recommend some other, resources, articles, books, or something else.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm going to tell you my book because we get into scarcity. But I would say there's a lot of, there's so many good resources and so many good books. I mean, if you are one who, you're a reader and you like to learn more about, the whole psychology part of marketing influence. I mean, truly reading the book Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini would be a fantastic addition to your library and something that you definitely should do. Scarcity is actually one of the influence factors that he identifies, and he's a friend of mine who's actually out from Arizona too. But I would say that would be a really good one to just add to your knowledge. And then actually, like, again, if you want to learn more on the psychology side and how do you relate it to business, even stay up on Psychology Today. I know a lot of writers on there, and they're business professionals who have psychology backgrounds as well. And so there's always a lot of interesting things. And you just have to think outside the box when you're reading some of this of like, how does this apply to my business? Because it might not be apparent right away. But when we truly understand how the brain works and how people react, I mean, you always want to use it in an ethical way, but it can just change up your messaging and just make you become a stronger communicator. And of course, get more excitement around your events.
Yeah, that's a great message. And that's what I keep talking about whenever I have a chance with event professionals. And that's the whole point of this podcast as well, so that event planners, event marketers could use psychology more to basically make their events more successful, more remarkable, more memorable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my last question, my final question, is signature question. I ask guests all the time, and every time, because the podcast title is What If I Told You? Can you complete this sentence with one takeaway relevant to our conversation? So what if I told you?
What if I told you that you could apply scarcity without spending additional money on marketing just by changing the words that you use?
That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me today, Mindy. That was a really insightful conversation, and I invite everyone to connect with Mindy and get her book, of course, and apply her insights about scarcity in marketing, in promoting your next event. Thank you for tuning in to What If I Told You, the Event Psychology Podcast. For more brain science insights and for this episode recap, I invite you to join the Event Psychology Club. Also, if you want to upgrade your skills and get research-based solutions for your events, I invite you to take the Event Psychology Lab online course that I created for event props like you. Until next time, bye-bye.